Define study loads and constraints. In this video, we'll define generative study loads, generative study constraints, and we'll activate symmetry. In Fusion 360, we want to carry on with our generative suspension design. We're going to get started by first hiding our obstacle geometry, so we're only focusing on the preserves. These are going to be the different pieces of geometry where we have to apply our design constraints or our loads. If we take a look at our design conditions, we have our structural constraints, we have our structural loads, we can take a look at the load case attributes and even create point masses. For this example, we're going to start with structural constraints. We're going to first set our type to pin, and we're going to select the inside of one of our preserved geometries where it's going to attach to in this case, a Heim joint. Once we select that, we'll note that it's locked in the radial and axial directions, and we're going to say OK. Using my right-click marking menu in the 12 o'clock position, I'm going to repeat that, and I want to select the inside of the other cylinder. Once again, we need to make sure that we are using the pin constraint, and we'll select OK. Those are going to be the only constraints that we're going to apply to this model. The next thing we want to do is we want to go to our structural loads. The first type of load we're going to add is a bearing load. We're going to set the bearing load to the inside cylinders of our shock mount, and we're going to rotate this around to a front view. Notice the arrows are pointing up currently, and I want to make sure that we're pointing them down. This is going to be about 130 degrees. This is going to match the angle of the shock, and then we need to apply a force. In this case, the force is in newtons, but if we want to change that, we can use change units and pick any of the other units that are available. We're going to change this from 0 newtons. We're going to apply a shock load of 4,500 newtons. The shock load is going to be dictated by the mass of the vehicle, as well as the angle of the shock and the position it's mounted on. The closer that it's mounted to the ball joint mount where the load is going to be applied, and the more vertical the shock is going to be, the lower that spring rate will be. But in this case, it's set inboard of that position, and it's at a fairly steep angle, so the shock load is relatively high. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take a look at applying some loads to the ball joints themselves. So we're going to go back to our structural loads, and we're going to place a load on the inside face. This is going to be where the ball joint is pressed in and mounted. In reality, this is going to be a tapered face, so loading this inside face equally is going to be a good solution for us. I'm going to go back to a front view, making sure that arrow is pointing up. In this case, the load is going to be 2,500 newtons. We're going to select OK, and then we're going to repeat that by using our right-click marking menu again and selecting the outside face of the ball joint. The outside face of the ball joint is going to be an area where it's welded or created with the rest of our A-arm. So again, we have to look at the overall project and the overall structure of how we're applying these loads. In reality, the load likely wouldn't be applied to the outside, but for this example, we're going to use this just to show a different way to apply the loads. I'm going to be using the option that allows us to enter a vector, which will let me select X, Y, and Z directions for the load. So for this first load case, we're going to be using 1,000 newtons in the X direction. So under FX, we'll enter 1,000. And in the Z direction, we're going to enter 1,500. When we look at the direction this load is applied, you can see that our coordinate system has Z pointing up as we're looking at it and X pointing to the right. So our load is going up and to the right as applied. We're going to select OK, and now we've created our first load case. Rather than repeat all the steps that we use to create our constraints and our loads, we're going to right-click on load case 1, and we're going to clone this. We're going to activate the second load case. We're going to go into our loads by expanding it. We're going to select force 4, and we're going to edit this force. In this case, we're going to change the direction of the load that's being applied. Now, it's going to be minus 1,500 newtons. So I'm going to put a minus sign, and I'm going to change this to 1,500 newtons. And our Z is going to be minus 1,000. So we're going to, again, put a minus sign and change this to minus 1,000. It's important to note that these are not the only two loads that would typically be seen on a car suspension. But again, for simplicity's sake, we're only going to be applying these two separate loading cases as well as taking into account the shock load that's applied at these two preserved geometries. So now we have load case 1, which has our load being applied up and outward in addition to the load that's on the ball joint. And then we have load case 2, which still has that ball joint load that's being applied vertically. And we also have the load that's being applied down and inward of the vehicle. When we're talking about solving a generative design with multiple load cases, it's going to be taking into account all of the various loads that we defined in a single load case, as well as all the loads in all of the load cases, and it's going to factor those in when it's calculating whether or not to add or remove geometry to the design. So with these two load cases, we're going to assume at this point that these are all the loads that will be applied to our vehicle. But again, in reality, there will be more external loads. Depending on how close the shock mount is to the ball joint, the rest of the geometry of the A-arm is going to see relatively low loading, unless there's an impact of some sort. So it's really looking at building the load between these two and connecting them back to the mounting of the vehicle. At this point, let's make sure that we do save this, and we're going to talk about adding symmetry to our design as well. Because we have a model construction plane, in this case our mid plane, we look at this from the top, the mid plane is perfectly through the shock, the center of the shock mount, and everything in this specific design is symmetric about that plane. This is a great candidate for adding a symmetry plane. In order to do that, we can go to our design space dropdown and select symmetry plane, and then we need to pick the plane that we want to use. In our case, it's that mid construction plane that's in the design. We can select OK, and now we have the definition of a symmetry plane, and this can be modified as well directly from the browser by selecting the pencil icon to edit. In this case, we're not going to edit the symmetry plane. This is exactly what we want. But just note that symmetry planes can help simplify the calculations, and they can help have a more symmetric end result. If we are going to be using the outcome of a generative design, having that symmetry plane can simplify downstream post-processing. But once again, let's always make sure that we do save often, and then we can move on to the next step.